Welcome to Azure AZ204 certification course on QuestPond, and this is the first 1 hour of the lesson. In this 1 hour of the lesson, following is the agenda. First, we will look into the goals of AZ204. We will look into the syllabus of AZ204, and then we will go through 4 lessons: creating VMs, how to give them remote access, ARM templates, and Docker. So in order to know more about the exam, please go and Google Azure AZ204 on Google, and you will find this official link out here, which is of docs.microsoft.com. Please understand this exam belongs to Microsoft, so ensure that you go to the microsoft.com website. So here you will find, what is the goal of the exam and so on. So the first thing is Azure AZ204 is a Microsoft certification, is an Azure Microsoft certification which is targeted towards ensuring that you are an Azure developer. To certify that you are an Azure developer, you can develop Azure solutions, you can deploy, you can maintain, you can monitor, you can performance tune them and so on, right? So in order to know more about this syllabus, what you can do is you can go ahead here and you can download this exam skills outline, which has a detailed PDF of what this certification is, right? So if you download this PDF, you will come across such kind of an content. So if you see here, there is an audience profile. So in the audience profile, it is clearly mentioned that this exam is targeted towards Azure developer, to make you an Azure developer, right? Who will Azure developer partners, who will actually be developing, deploying, maintaining, performance tuning, and so on, right? And if you see the syllabus, right, the syllabus has 5 topics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 topics. So the first one is develop Azure compute solution, which is 25 to 30%. This is where the maximum questions actually come from, following by Azure storage, following by Azure security, Azure solution, and third-party service. So you can see here the weightage distribution: 25 to 30% to Azure compute, 10 to 15% to Azure storage, 15 to 20% to Azure security, and then monitoring and troubleshooting 10 to 15%, and for services and third party 25 to 30%. So in this 1 hour, our goal is to first start with develop Azure compute solution. So if you look at develop Azure compute solution, you can see that there is this main topic, develop Azure compute solution, and in this we have implement IaaS solution, then we have create Azure app service, and then we have implement Azure functions. So there are actually 3 topics in this. So what we will do in this 1 hour is we will cover 1, 2, 3, and 4 topics of the first chapter, right? Of the first chapter of the certification. So you can see on the notepad, I have aligned provisioning VMs, configuring VM for remote access, ARM templates, and container images. So that's what the target is in this coming 1 hour. So let us get started. So let's start with the first topic, provisioning VMs. So I'm going to go now to my portal out here. So you can see here, I'm on my Azure portal. So let us go ahead and create a virtual machine. So provisioning VMs means creating it and deploying it on Azure, right? So I'm going to go and click on this virtual machines out here, and we will say add a virtual machine. Now, when you create a virtual machine, the first thing what you need to provide is a resource group. A resource group is collection of resources on Azure. So for example, let us say that you are starting a project. So you would need a virtual machine, you would need a database, you would need IP addresses, you would need a domain name, right? So all of this, what you can do is you can go and you can put it into a resource group, which is a logical collection of, logical collection of resources. And then you can give them rights together if you want it. You can see that builds together. So for example, you have like 4 or 5 projects. What you can do is you can go and you can create resources for all those 4 or 5 projects, and you can see that builds and see their finances, what is happening, right? So let us go ahead and create a resource group. So I'll say that this is some temporary resource group. So temporary res1. And let me give a name here, virtual machine, saying that VM123. So where do you want to go and create these virtual machines? Now remember that Azure is available almost in all the locations. So Azure data centers are located in almost all the locations. So which is the location you would like to prefer, right? So let us go ahead and select US East, right? Um, do you want any kind of redundancy? So for example, if this virtual machine fails out here, do you want to go ahead and provide a kind of a backup, a kind of a redundancy? So for now I'll just say no, like I don't want to have any kind of redundancy. And then I will go and I will select, so in this virtual machine, which is the operating system you want to have? So I'll just say I want to select, the Windows Server, right? Now this is the size of the virtual machine. So do you want a 2-core virtual machine with 8 GB RAM, or do you want some cheaper virtual machine out there, right? So you can see there are lots of sizes out here. So what I will do is I'll take a size, which is probably this one, right? So let's see over here at the right hand side, what is the cost? Yeah, I can take this one, right? So here it is. The next thing you'd like to do is you'd like to provide a username and a password, so basically when the Windows operating system starts, it needs a username and a password. So I'm going to go and provide a username here and a password. So right. Okay, and do you want so select which virtual machine network ports are accessible from public internet. So here, you can go and you can say that yes, can people log in into this? What are the ports which are allowed? So I'll say, allow selected ports for now. And do you want people to do a remote desktop into your virtual machine? So you can go and you can select this RDP out here. So which of the ports are opened? So I will go and I'll select RDP. If you see in the exam, right, it says that configure VMs for remote access. So basically this RDP out here, allows you to configure your machine for remote desktop, right? So in case if you go and unselect it, then people won't be able to do a remote desktop, right? So I'm going to go and select RDP for now, right? So this will allow the IP addresses to access your virtual machine. And I will just say review and create. There it is. And that should create my virtual machine, right? You can see that you can see over here the cost. It is 12 INR per hour. Now because I'm logged in from India, it is showing me INR. In case you are logged in from US, and if your credit card is of US, you will see dollars out here, right? So I can just review everything and everything looks okay for me, and I will just say create. Once you say create, you can see at the right hand side it starts submitting for deployment, and once the deployment is successful, it will tell me that this virtual machine is done, right? So let us give it some time, until this deployment happens. So that was the first topic of Azure, provision VMs, right? And so you can see that it was quite easy. You just say create virtual machine, you give the name, you give the location, you give your username and password, and you say that you want a remote desktop, and there it is. So there you can see our VM is created. So I'll just go to the resource out here, and let us go ahead and connect to this VM. So I'll say connect. Now, because I have enabled RDP, that is remote desktop, on the VM, I can easily go and say connect. What it does is it actually goes and creates an RDP file. An RDP file is a simple file which has all the connection details to connect to a machine. So I'll just download it. You can see it gets downloaded here at the left hand side. You can see the VM123.rdp. I can just double click on it, and let's say connect. Now remember that when I created this virtual machine, I had given a username and a password. So just let's ensure that we put that username and password out here, and I should see my virtual machine should be running. You can see that Azure is quite secured, so whenever you connect to any resource out there, it will always ask for certificates. It will always do all the security checks. So I'll say yes, use these certificates for connection. So there it is, configuring remote access, and I should be able to log into my virtual machine. So you can see here, this is my virtual machine which is running on Azure. It is the Windows Server 2019 which I've configured, right? So quite easy. So when it comes to provisioning virtual machines, just go ahead, create Azure VM, put down all the details, and you have the VM provisioned for you. So that was the first topic out here, provisioning VMs. The second topic out here is configure VM for remote access. So at this moment you can see that I can access this VM remotely, which is good. But there are times you don't want to give remote access, right? So what you can do is, if you want to restrict access, you can go here, and over here you can go and you can search for networking. Now why networking? Because when you talk about RDP, TCP/IP, all these are protocols, and mostly they are configured through networking. So I'll go to the networking tab out here, and in the networking tab you can see there is something called as a inbound port rules. So inbound port rules are rules which are applied when a person connects to a virtual machine, and outbound port rules are the rules where when from the virtual machine you are trying to connect to someone else, right? Or trying to do a network activity which is sending data out, right? So when somebody is connecting to your inbound, when somebody is going and connecting to a virtual machine, the inbound port rules you can go and you can define here. You can go and you can add a new port rule. But you can see here at this moment my goal is to go and configure this RDP rule which I have here, right? So I can go and I can edit this rule, and I can go and I can delete it if I want it, or I can go and I can configure it. For example, at this moment, if you see this RDP protocol is this rule is taking any port. It is from any IP address, right? But I can go and I can specify saying that no, like from specific IP address only people can connect to this virtual machine. So I can go and I can specify my IP range. I can go and I can specify as per the service tag. So service tags are ready-made tags which are in Azure. Like for example, if you say an internet service tag, that means that all the all the IP addresses can connect. If you say virtual network, only internal network can connect, and so on, right? Or you can go and you can specify an application security group. So inside Azure, you can create a security group saying that this security group has these things, and you can apply that security group, right? But for now, we will do a very simple thing. We will just go and delete this rule out here. And once I delete this rule out here, I should be, I should not be able to connect to this VM, right? So I'm going to go to this VM 123, and if I say connect, and if I say download RDP file, and if I try to connect to it, oops, it is connecting. Is the rule applied? Strange. Let me try it again. Connect. I think the rule was getting applied and I was trying to connect because I should definitely get an error. So let us see. You can see now it is taking time. So I'm expecting some kind of an exception there saying that boom, the remote access is not enabled, or either it is switched off and so on. It is definitely not switched off. If you see the VM, it is running out there, but I can't connect to it because I have disabled the RDP port, right? So now let us go ahead and configure again the RDP port, and let us check if we can connect back. Now when you talk about RDP, RDP is mostly a TCP/IP port which actually listens to 3389, right? So I'm going to go and add an access of TCP/IP to the port of 3389, right? And that should allow me to connect. So you can see there are a couple of things here. I have put the port ranges, the port number. I have just put a name out here. Also, you can go and you can specify the priority, saying that what kind of priority you want to set here, right? So I'll just keep the default priority, whatever it is, as 100. You can see at the right side there is something called as at the right side you can see that he's creating the security rule, And once the security rule is created, I should be able to connect using RDP. So I can just say connect RDP, and let us check. I will just download. Let's open connect, and I should be able to do a remote desktop. Must be, I can just do it again. Sometimes, you know, the internet just gets crazy, right? 3389. Why isn't it connecting? Oh, let us check what we did in networking. 3389 TCP allow any source, right? That looks all right. So why it did not connect? So that it is 3389. Absolutely, I have allowed it. I've allowed it to connect. That's crazy, right? So fine, but looks, you know, when you actually disable a port and when you actually enable a port, you know, this is all happening on the virtual machine. So don't expect it to be like, it's not like checking an email, isn't it? So that's why it was taking time, but I think it is enabled. So you can see now I can again go and connect back to my virtual machine. So that was the next chapter, you know, which talked about configuring VMs for remote access, right? So first chapter we talked about is provisioning VMs, and the second chapter we talked about is configuring VMs for remote access, how you can enable remote access and how you can disable remote access. Now the third thing what we have here is creating ARM templates. So let us talk about it. The full form of ARM is Azure Resource Manager. So Azure Resource Manager is nothing but it is a template which is in JSON format, and this template, it defines the infrastructure and configuration of your project. So for example, now you can see here in my Azure portal out here, you know, there is a resource here called as res123, and in this resource, you know, there is a virtual machine, there is an IP address, you know, there is a network group, you know, there is a hard disk, right, and so many other things. Now let us say that you know, I want to go and recreate this whole resource group 100 times, right? So if I want to do that, then I have to again go and do that manually, right? I have to again go and create a virtual machine out here, you know, create this public address and assign the hard disk and assign the operating system, define the network security group and so on. Or what I can do is I can go to this resource group out here and I can go and I can create a ARM template. So I can go and I can export a template, right? So there it is. So you can see this is an ARM template. So it is an, you know, as said in the Microsoft documentation, it is in JSON notation. So you can see here the name of the virtual machine, then you can see the IP address and so on. So it's in JSON format with a name and a value pair, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and download this. So let us go and download this res123. So you can see that it has downloaded it into my downloads folder out here. I can rename this. Let's rename this as you know, like res123, right? And I will extract it somewhere here. All right, extract it. So that's the resource. So if you see here, it's nothing but it's a JSON file. So you can see here, this is a template and these are the parameters for the template, right? So if you just open this in Notepad, that's what the complete representation of that resource 123 is: the IP address, the virtual networks, and everything, right? So now let us go ahead and try to deploy this. So what I'll do is I'll just go and delete this res123. Let us see that if it can go and recreate it automatically, right? So I'm going to go and delete it, res 123. I'll delete this, and let us try to see that if we can recreate the res 123 by using this template. So let's go ahead and upload the template. So to upload the template, you can just go and try to find template, and you can see there is something here called as template deployment using custom template, or deploy a custom template. And over here we can say build your template with an editor, and I will say load file, and I will go and I will upload this template what I had downloaded, and I will say save, and we'll say create. You can see he's asking for a resource name, so I'll just give the same resource name, res123, and I will say review and create it. So you can see how easy it is to create the complete resource, you know, from the template. So ARM template helps for automation. So I'm going to go and say create, but here is a problem, you know, it says, right, you know, automation has its own pain points. So now here also, you know, this ARM template is really good, but at the end of the day, when you say that, okay, now I want to go and automate it, you still have to do those fixes and tweaks and things. So you can see that they have given the ARM template for automation, definitely, but at the end of the day, you know, there are some things, you know, which are left out, and we need to go and do those tweaks and tricks. So you can see here it's trying to deploy it, but we will end up with some kind of an exception, I'm sure. So the template again needs some more tweaks and changes. So there it is getting deployment is in progress. If you get any kind of issues, it will say that this is the issue, and then we need to go and fix that issue, right? You can see he's created the NSG group, he has created the virtual network, he has created the IP address, right? So for a virtual machine, you need all this. You need a network, you need a RDP configured, you need an IP address. So you can see slowly it is configuring all the ancillary resources before creating the virtual machine. So let's wait. Now you can see here it is showing a thing here saying virtual machine service unavailable. So I'm not sure what is happening here. Let us see. So when you have, you know, like you want to create 100 virtual machines of the same configuration, that's where, you know, ARM templates comes into use, you know. So as an IT admin or as a administrator of a company, what you can do is that you can create a standard template and keep, and then you can say, okay, like you want to go ahead and when any person joins the organization or something, you want to say that, okay, let us go and create a standard environment for him. You can start running the ARM. You can see deployment failed. So as I've said that automation comes with its own pain points, right? So I'm going to go and click on this deployment failed out here. So you can see those small things, you know, which still needs fixes. For example, it is saying that the boot diagnostics storage account URI is missing. Now this boot diagnostics is nothing but, you know, when the virtual machine boots, and if you want to maintain the diagnostics of it, it is asking for something, right? So that is so difficult for me to figure out at this moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and open the template, and let me figure out where is this boot diagnostics. So boot, sorry, let me just go and search it very quickly. Boot diagnostics, there it is. So what I'll do is I'll just make it false, right? I will save this and let me redeploy the template. From this demo, I just want to point out one thing, you know, that this automation of the template looks easy, but it is not so easy. You have to really run through 3-4 iterations. You know, when you say that you want to do automation, you have to really go through 3-4 iterations and filter out, you know, those pain points, you know, so that everything runs proper, right? So again, I'm going to go and do upload templates. It's a request, you know, via this video to Microsoft to make this templates more smooth. because sometimes what happens is like I work on Azure left and right every day. So I sometimes feel that, okay, like why should I create an ARM template? Like if I have to go and fix this and if I have to go and fix that, right? Let's say if I want to create 3 virtual machines, I would have just gone and created till now, right? So these small fixes, I think Microsoft should really take care of, right? Uh, or at least give something in the documentation. So again, I've done the fixes of the boot diagnostics. I'm going again and saying create. So the point of this demo is as well, that one is that yes, we have to do the certification, we have to learn, but at the same time, we have to also see that what are the pain points that happen, when you start using Azure as a product, right? So again, I have redeployed, I have gone ahead and I have fixed that boot diagnostics to false, saying that don't worry about the boot diagnostics. Just go ahead and try to deploy the virtual machine. Again, you can see one more error out here. So where did it go? Deployment failed. So if you see click for detail, it says parameter is disk managed ID is not allowed. Now remember that all of this I have Googled. It's not that I have some kind of a, what do you call, knowledge from the sky that I know all these things. I have Googled and already I know that what the issue is. So I have, for this thing, what I have to do is I have to go and remove the disk ID. So I go out here and you can see that this is the managed disk and you can see this premium LRS, right? So over here we need to go and remove this disk ID, right? So I'm going to go and remove this thing and I will save this and let me re-upload again. Really Microsoft should fix this but it's fine for now. So let's say templates, again deploy a custom template, build your template with the editor, save it. But pretty much, if you really want to talk about automation and if you can just straighten off these small things, ARM is definitely very helpful, right? So it's just that at the first run, any automation have those hiccups, right? So in the same way, same is true for ARM as well. So again, deployment in progress, we have fixed 2 issues. I think we should get more, 1 or 2 couple of issues, and after that we should be able to create our virtual machine. So there it is. It's again saying deployment in progress, again failed. Why not? Let's see what it is. Request guest provisional signal is not valid because Microsoft Compute agentless feature is not enabled for this subscription, right? I have no idea what is that, right? But I can go and I can check, for this request guest provisional signal. Okay. Okay, can I just search for signal? Notepad search. Request guest provisional signal. I can either make this as false or must be I can just go and remove this. Is it right? Just remove this flag. Let me do that and let me deploy it. So templates, and you can go and you can save the template as well, so you don't have to really go and upload again and again. You can save the template, but for that you have to go and use the marketplace. So I'm not going to that marketplace and buying things, to just save the template, right? So again, create. So I hope this time it works. Submitting. I think the other resources probably it has already created, probably. So that's why it is not taking so much time. So the IP address, the virtual networks, right, and so on, I think those he has already created. Deployment in progress. Okay, again I can see some issues. So sad. Oh, admin password. Yep, you're creating a virtual machine and you don't give an admin password, right? So that's so sad. So let me give an admin password. So that's an admin username, right? And I need to give an admin password. Admin password. So a few things out here. In the later part of the lectures, we can figure out that how these parameters can be automated, right? So for now, we'll just fix like this, admin password. Let me make it pass@123. I would request, for production, don't. First thing, when you're deploying the VMs in production, you won't be putting password like this through Notepad. Please understand it. It has to go through some secure channel, right? So we'll talk about that later on. For now, let us try to complete this demo. So by no means this demo is meant, that you should do in production like this, right? So templates, deploy a custom template. JSON is not proper. What did I miss? I think I missed a semicolon. Yep. A comma, I missed a comma. Right. Right. And hope this time it deploys. Review and create. Create. There it is, again initializing and deployment. So again there you can see, very good. You can see now this time the virtual machine has been created and looks like it is starting the virtual machine. So our ARM template is quite automated to deploy virtual machines easily, right? So the whole goal of ARM template is to represent your Azure resources in JSON format. So it represents your Azure resource in JSON format, and then you can go and you can upload this JSON format onto the Azure and automate your infrastructural activities, right? So there it is. Great. You can see everything deployed. I hope I can go and I can start my virtual machine. Let's go and just check that. I'm going to just very quickly check it. And there it is. And pretty much we should be able to log into the virtual machine, right? Okay. Right. Great. So you can see here I can connect and my virtual machine has started, right? So that was a small demo of ARM templates. Hope that you have understood it. Hope that you also understood, the pain points of what gets attached with ARM templates. Even though, Microsoft says that it is all smooth and great, but at the end of the day, those small fixes here and there needed for all automation also stands true for ARM templates, right? So till now we have completed provisioning VMs. We talked about how to configure VMs for remote access. And then just now we saw that how we can automate our resource creation process using ARM. The next topic which is here, which is a very big topic, is creating container images for solutions by using Docker. So let us try to understand this topic. Let us try to do some demos. Now, first thing before we start, let us try to understand what exactly is this term called as Docker out here. and what do you understand by the word container, right? So let us first try to understand why do we need Docker and what exactly is this container. So first thing, Docker is nothing but it is a container based technology to deploy application. I repeat this sentence, Docker is nothing but it's a container based technology to deploy applications. What do I mean by that? So now let us say that you have a couple of applications here. Let's say you have one application which is made in Java and it has, let us say, Oracle as the backend. Let us say you have another application out here must be which is made in .NET, in MVC, and it has SQL Server as the backend, right? And you want to go and deploy both of these applications. So the first thought process would be to buy two different hardwares, right? So you can have one box or one separate machine out here, and you put Java and Oracle, probably with a Linux operating system in this. You have another machine, another box here. So this is box 2, this is box 1, and in this you put your Windows operating system and you install MVC and SQL Server on that, right? But definitely in this, the problem is that you have to buy two different hardwares. It increases the cost. So the other way is that you can just have one hardware and you can use virtualization, right? So what you can do, the other thing is, so here it is, you have Java, Oracle, and let us say you have an application which is made in MVC SQL Server. So the other way is that you just have one big machine, one big hardware out here, and you create virtual machines inside it, right? So you have one box, only one hardware, and you create one virtual machine here, right? Virtual machine, what are virtual machines? Virtual machines, are like, self-contained operating system. So one is that you have an operating system which is running on this box, right? On the hardware, we can say that this is the host OS, right? And then what you have is you have a different copy of operating system out here, for every of these VMs. So like you can see here, there is VM1, VM2. So must be in this, I will install a complete copy of Windows OS, and I will install MVC inside this. I will have a complete different copy of Linux OS, and I will install Java on this, right? Now this is really good, but the problem is that, this duplicate copy of operating system really squeezes your hardware, your RAM, your hard disk, right? And it makes the complete host very slow. And that's where Docker containers or container-based technology comes into picture. So what container-based technology says is that it says that let us not go and create a full-blown copy of this OS. Let us just go and create just a minimal copy of the OS, right? Just minimum binary what we need. So what Docker does is, Docker is a container-based technology, and it does the following. So it goes, so here is your main hardware with the host OS, right? It goes and it creates containers. So in containers, what happens is, so let's say this host OS is Linux, right? Assume. So in container-based technology, what happens is, so we have this Docker layer, and what this Docker layer does is it actually goes and, it just uses, the minimal OS, the minimal binary OS, what it needs, minimum binary of that OS it uses to create a container, right? And anything, if it wants extra, it will interact with the host OS and get it, right? In the same way, it can actually go and create another container out here, which is again like the minimal OS what you need for Windows, right? Minimal binaries to run Windows. So what happens is now the size of these containers, right, are very less as compared to VMs. I repeat this, container sizes are very less as compared to VMs. VMs are heavy size. Why? Because you have a full-blown copy out there, right? So that's what exactly is Docker. Docker helps you to create containers inside which you can go and you can host your applications, and these containers are not as heavy as virtual machines because they don't create a full copy of the OS. They don't create a full running copy of the OS, but they just use the minimal binaries to run the OS, and which is those minimal binaries are very less as compared to the full OS. So let us go ahead and see a very quick demo of how to install Docker and how to host an application in Docker, right? So first thing, let us go ahead and get Docker. So I'm going to go to Google out here, and you can say Docker download. Now at this moment I am on a Windows server. So at this moment I have this Windows server out here. So I'll be going and downloading the Docker for Windows, right? So here it is, Docker for Windows. And let me go and get the Windows installation out here very quickly, and let me download this Docker for Windows. So you can see Docker for Windows install. And then we can go to download from Docker Hub. So there it is, and I will just say get Docker. And you can see the download has started. So there it is. Now I can go here to the Docker desktop installer. Remember that I am using Windows, so I've just used the Docker desktop installer. If you are using Linux, then you need to use the other installation. So there it is. I'm going ahead and I'm saying Docker desktop. It is downloading the packages. So the installation of Docker is quite simple. You just, at least in Windows, it is very simple. You just download the setup. You say next, and you are done. Now, definitely, one of the things, which Docker definitely needs is that your Windows should be configured with Hyper-V. Hyper-V is nothing but it is a virtualization technology which helps you to create virtual environments inside the operating system, right? So I will say yes, enable the Hyper-V, and I'll say okay. So there it is unpacking files, it is installing. So there you can see that the Docker has been installed successfully, right? And it is saying that please restart your machine. Why? Because it has enabled Hyper-V and so on. So it needs an restart. So let's go and say restart. So now you can see here down below Docker container is running. You can see Docker is starting. If you right click on this, you will see a lot of things out here. You will see Kubernetes, you will see restart Docker, you will see a dashboard, right? But let us quickly go to I want to run Windows container, because what I'm thinking is that I want to go and host an MVC application. So I'm going to go and switch to Windows container here. You can see there is some warning. It says that you will lose all I will not lose the data, but it says that existing container will continue to run, but you will not be able to manage it. I'll say yes. I just don't want to work with Linux containers for now. And you can see down below it is saying Docker desktop is switching, and this will start the Windows container, right? And what I want to do is I want to go and host this MVC application. You can see this is an MVC core application, which is an ASP.NET MVC core application. It just has this default page out here, home, privacy, and so on. It uses MVC, right? So this is what I wish to run inside this Docker container. So you can see, I think the Docker container has started. So if I go and see over here, my VM, if you see out here, it looks like it has started the Docker container. What we can do is just to quickly check that is really Docker container running or not. What we can do is we can go ahead and just run on the command prompt. Why am I coming to the outer machine? So on the command prompt we can run Docker version and just check that if our Docker is running or not, right? So Docker version, So there you can see it is saying yes, it is running the Docker version, and at this moment it is running the Windows machine. So I think I'm okay with that, right? Now in order to go and create a container, right, we need to define what goes inside the container. So as I've said that Docker is a container based technology, so you need to tell him that yes, are you going to use Oracle, are you going to use Java, are you going to use what, right? So at this moment this is an MVC core application, so whatever you want to install inside the Docker, you have to put down into this file called as Docker file. So you can see in this same solution out here in the same Visual Studio, I have created a Docker file, D capital F capital, and in this I am saying that whatever thing I need, for example, to run .NET Core, I need to first compile the project. So you can see here I am saying from this get your SDK, go and switch to your directory. So this actually goes and changes the directory. Then I am saying do .NET restore. Now I'll not go into what is .NET here, but .NET restore will go and get all the nugget packages needed for the project. Then I'm saying .NET publish. So go ahead and take these DLLs and push it out, push it out to a directory. And then I'm saying, okay, entry point .NET and start my web application 12 DLL, right? Web application 2.dll. My current application name is web application 2. So these are some syntaxes out here. So first one, download the SDK. Second one, run the .NET restore command. Third one, do a .NET publish. Fourth one, get the runtime. Remember, runtime helps you to run your .NET Core on production, right? So get the runtime and then start your application. So this entry point says this is a .NET application, and start the static void main is in this web application 12 DLL. So it will go to the program.cs and then it will start running your application, right? So we need this Docker file, right? So what I've done is I have taken this complete project and I have copied it over here into this machine, right? So into this C drive out here, I have copied everything. So what I'll do is let us go now and let us try to create a container. So I'm going to go to my command prompt. Let me go and just make the fonts bigger. So let us go and say font, and let us make it a bit bigger out here, like let's make it something like this, right? And over here I'll say go ahead to this web application 2. Now we need to go and fire some Docker commands out here. So for example, now the first thing is we need to go and create an image, right? Remember, we have to first go and create an image, and then by using that image we can go and we can create instances out of it. So the step is, first we have to go and we have to create an image. An image is like a blueprint, and then from that it will actually go and create containers, right? So to create an image, we have to say docker build -t, the name of the image, and where is your Docker file. Remember this Docker file, in which directory it is. If it is in the current directory, then say dot, right? So I'm going to go and copy this command, docker build -t MVC core image, the name of the image what you want to create, and the file. So at this moment the file is out here, Docker file, it is out here in the outside directory. So I'll go and say paste this, and I'll say create the image. So you can see now it is first going and downloading the SDK. It will then go and it will do a .NET restore. Something went wrong out there. What happened? Handshake timeout. What happened? Is something down? No, okay, okay, must be just bad internet. So here it is, you can see now it has started downloading, it has started extracting, right? And once everything completes, right, our image will be created. So let us give some time for this. So you can see this is showing here step 1 of 11. So the 1 of 11 is this one, right? And then it actually has removed the comments and the white spaces. So you must be seeing here 16 lines, but actually if I remove this one, if I remove this one, if I remove this space, actually these are like 11 lines. So I can just go and delete all of them. This is here. Let's remove this, right? So you can see it is 11 lines, right? 11 lines of code. So it is actually running this first line at this moment. So if you go and see here, it says from step 1 of 11. So the step 1 of 11 says that get the SDK. Once that is done, it will then go and change the working directory, because the project file is inside web application 2. So it will change the working directory. It will copy that solution into another project, right? Another folder, and then say .NET Restore. Now please note, if you think that no, like the compilation I have already completed, you can happily go and just remove all these steps. So till here .NET Publish, if you think that no, like I will do the .NET Publish and the .NET build into my local machine, not really into the Docker system out there, you can go and you can remove this, and you can just use this last 4 lines of code. So what you can do is you can say get the runtime. You already have the DLL built in, right? And you just say entry point and you start. So you don't have to really do all of this, right? But at this moment, I just want to show you that yes, you can see that it has already ran it. It has already created the image. Yeah, but the whole goal of showing that with the compilation is that if you wish, you can go ahead and you can deploy the complete container from scratch. You can have the deployment into a different machine altogether. You can do CI/CD and so on, right? So I can see that all the 11 steps have been completed, and it has actually created the image. So I can just say Docker images to just see. So I can see that MVC core image is out there. Now one more important point out here, this is just an image creation. It did not still create an instance, right? So to create the instance, the command is docker run. So you can see a docker run on this port number, and from this image create MVC core instance 1, right? So it is from this, using this core, it will actually with this image it will create an instance 1. So I'm going to go and copy this command, docker run. All these commands are available in the text file. So wherever you are seeing this video, please go in the downloads. You should see all the commands out there. So I'll just say MVC core instance. So what it will do, it will take that blueprint MVC core image and it will create an MVC core instance 1, right? So we can now go to the Docker out here to just check where exactly it has created. So I can go now to the dashboard. So let's go to the dashboard and let us see that if our MVC core instance is created. You can see yes, it has created MVC core instance. We can go and we can browse this. Now remember, it has inside it has created a separate container with all the necessary components needed to run MVC core, and a very lightweight OS necessary files to run this MVC core instance, right? So if I go and if I click on this open browser, I should see my MVC core instance running. So you can see here localhost and things are running, right? So this is a very, very simple demo of how to go and create a container images for solution by using Docker. Now what I would suggest is, guys, please go and watch my Azure step-by-step videos where I have more in-depth video of how to go and install this complete thing into the server. Because here what I've done is I've just ran in a very basic way, that okay, this is the command to run, this is the way you will go and create an instance, right? But I did not really go inside in depth. Why? Because at this moment this course does not demand it, right? So I would suggest to go and watch the video of Learn Azure Step by Step, which is there on this channel as well. And in that we have a separate video which is dedicated to Docker, right? So very quickly, what were the steps we done? First, we installed Docker. Second, we created this file, Docker file. And then third, we used Docker build command. We created the image, and Docker run command, we actually created the instance. So that brings us to the 1 hour of this lessons, and we have covered 4 lessons as we discussed when we started this lesson. Now the next topic what we will cover is publish an image to Azure Container Registry, run container by using Azure instance. There is Azure Kubernetes service, but it is out of scope, so we won't be covering this topic. So in the coming lesson, we will cover publish an image to Azure Container Registry and run containers by using Azure Container Instance. Thank you. Happy learning. Happy certifying.